Welcome to the very first podcast episode. On behalf of Keystone Academia, I'm Dilpreet Kaur and starting this journey to share inspiring stories and meaningful insights. And today we have joined a very versatile profession with expertise in multiple fields, Mr. Manoj Kumar. And welcome to our first podcast show. So let me introduce him. So he's an accounting profession with extensive experience in finance role and in multiple organization with a cross-culture environment and particularly German market. And currently he's serving as a director of finance in JLL in Frankfurt. And he also has key position in Vodafone, Deutsche Bank, and HLS Engineering, if I'm not wrong, sir. Manoj sir is a chartered management accountant, that is ACMA and CGMA. And beyond all this professional accomplishment, he's passionate about education, more encourage and emphasize for homeschooling, and his children also has exceptional academic achievement accordingly. Additionally, he has expertise in German and other languages, which made him versatile and inspiring individual in the financial industry. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And please let us know how your journey throughout this period for the last 30 years, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, it's almost 30 years. So first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be talking to you, and I'm really thrilled to be doing this podcast. So regarding my journey, it has been like several ups and downs, and I can like break it into certain key milestones or something. So like the first one was my manufacturing career. So I was with manufacturing industry for almost a decade, but I always was passionate about running my own business. And then somewhere in the 90s, I got into my own business, ran that for around, again, a decade, 10 years or something, had several ups and downs. And then ultimately, last part of it was pretty bad. And then I decided to move into German related opportunities because that was something which was coming up. It was the time of BPOs and language was in demand. So this is when I decided to pick up my German skills and moved into like German speaking roles. The main opportunity came when there was a role for a German company which is sort of like a quasi government. So it has mandate from the German government to publish all the financial reports and find the companies who do not submit their reports. So it's like a quasi-government organization. I was doing financial report analysis in that organization, and then I realized probably I need to upskill my qualifications. This is when I opted for my Cima.
Okay.
So joined Cima in 2009, was completed in 2013. So like 2 years nothing happened. I was just like enrolled and doing nothing. And then ultimately I picked up the whatever the requirements were and completed it in my May 2014 exam.
Okay.
So this was a switch from like I also had accounting roles, but not as a professional accountant, but just in addition to my German skills. So I was into accounts payable once, but now I started looking for core accounting roles.
Okay.
And then I
So,
moved
sir,
to Vodafone, where I was into like the general ledger. And then this transformation came. So it's like it had been like manufacturing and my own business, and then industries, which are like small startups and multinationals. And then this final transformation came when I moved to Germany in 21.
okay, that's great, sir. So, but I have felt like German language was your major core background, and on the top of it, finance and made you grow in future in Germany. So, how the CIMA and finance role played a major role in your life?
So CIMA played an important role because it's a very recognized qualification, and that is what helped me get into like open the door for me. So CIMA is recognized worldwide, it's an international qualification, and had Brexit not happened, it would have been something which is acceptable. But German industry is very different from the Anglo-Saxon accounting. That is one of the reasons that there is a gap between what CIMA offers and what the German requirements are. But CIMA is better placed to compete with the German qualifications, although the German market does not has that recognition which the Anglo-Saxon market has. But even then, Cima opens the door for me, especially in Germany. And even in India, the companies which were multinational, they recognize the value of Cima.
Yes, they do. Yes, in Indian market as well. And how is the current scenario of in European market or German market of CIMA after Brexit?
Cima is like pretty expanding into Germany. They are doing pretty much promotions. I've been part of that. So there's a group in Germany called the Accounting Group in Germany, and that is
Okay.
supported by Cima, and I'm part of that group. So
Okay.
that is one thing we are doing. So Germany has something called a bookkeeper and a controller, and they fail to realize that Cima can offer both these capabilities. So
True
this is
that.
very different in comparison to what the Germans have and what Cima has to offer.
True
But with
that.
globalization, things are changing because nowadays there are a lot of English-speaking jobs available in Germany, and things are changing. Globalization is a real scenario now.
True that. And my next question is, what was the biggest challenge you faced in your career, and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenge, one was that the failure of my business, because we had a strike which lasted some 3 months, and that completely broke down my cash flows, and I couldn't recover from them. And the current challenge I face is that we see in IFRS, you have experts in IFRS 16, IFRS 15, one particular standard. And now I'm challenged with like I have to cope with US GAAP and IFRS and the German standard, which is called HGB. So keeping up with the changes in all these standards, it's a pretty challenging task. So for example, we have a new standard in IFRS 18, which is like you need to report your income in three different categories: operating, financing, and one more category is there. And then we have the new sustainability regulations coming into Europe. So the sector is always evolving and keeping up with all these new regulations. So I could be like an expert in sustainability reporting. But
Okay.
then to look at all the three gaps, that's a pretty challenging task.
Okay. So basically, in Germany, they follow their own accounting standard, which is now convertible to IFRS.
So
Okay.
every country has its own standards. So even countries which are following IFRS, so for example, Singapore has IFRS, but at certain point they say, okay, this portion, because IFRS is not rule based, it's principle based, and you can make changes or make amendments, or even India follows IFRS, but then they decide, okay, this is the particular clause that will not apply to our regulations, and that it changes the
Yes.
scenario. These are the small nuances of these gaps which we have to follow. In general, accounting remains the same. But German accounting is completely different from what you call IFRS. Or so IFRS is more like principle based. US GAAP
Yes.
is more like rule based. So you have a provision for everything. Okay, if this is the situation, this is what you follow. And HGB is also rule based, but HGB has something called it's actually HGB, but in English we will call it HGB. So I'll keep it HGB because that's what I'm used to. So it's more of a like conservative principle, and that's because the German accounting standards developed at a later date. So while Britain and US they were getting into this like agency theory where the other people were taking care of the money from for someone else. Here, the lending was coming from banks, and they wanted to be very
Okay.
sure about the security of their lending. So that is the core idea behind the German accounting. So that is they look at what is called a conservative principle. So, for example, where IFRS would allow you, or even US GAAP, because IFRS 15 and 606, they're almost a convergence of the standards. They would allow you to calculate certain revenue based on the completion of project basis. The German GAAP will only allow you to recognize the revenue when the rewards and risks are transferred.
Okay. Yes, it's all about country to country and company to company. Which you
So
are working
company
in.
to company, I don't think it will change for HGB and US GAAP, but IFRS can change. But I think
And
IFRS is also trying to like cut down the options available. So they're also coming to like one particular set of rule you have to follow for one standard. The options which are
yes,
available, that is being like cut down now.
I believe mostly multinational companies follow IFRS. like JLL.
IFR is the basis, but then I understand now being in European market that France has a completely different standard, and I'm not sure about what Japan follows, but mostly you can cut down US being a major economy, Germany being the economic hub of Europe, and IFRS being the most because IFRS is being adopted by UK, but that's also again has a different flavor. IFRS is, I think, the main accounting standard with individual seasoning from every country. But given the options available, this makes it complicated. If you have US GAAP applied to a certain company, you would not see many deviations from the rules which are followed in US GAAP, but IFRS could offer that challenge, local regulations.
Actually, some accountant has to learn new accounting standard as well, and vice versa, if we are running into
That's
different
right.
countries. Yes,
Because when I
even in India.
completed my Cima, IFRS 15 and IFRS 16 were not in place. So there were
Yes,
some like
came
IAS
later.
standards, the old ones, and then these were the new ones. So it's a completely like it's a field which is constantly evolving.
Yes, and nowadays sustainability has come into the picture. And now
Right.
everywhere, but I feel even Cima is also promoting a sustainability report that should be there.
You have to because
You have to.
these standards come into force from January 25 for such
Yes,
for a specific set of companies, and there would be soon like a mandatory regulation in coming years.
that's true. It's a good thing as well, related to our environment, that I would say. So moving ahead, for my different question. So many student believes like simply attending college is enough and often settle for the smaller opportunity without even focusing on developing essential skills. And what is your perspective on this mindset?
I think institutions like colleges and schools, they are a means of gaining knowledge and not the end. So it's just like temple. You cannot be religious just by going to temple. You have to bring in something within you. The main idea of going to school is providing a conducive environment where you can learn a peer group because you learn much from the peer groups. So that is one advantage of a school or an institution, you can say. But ultimately, the individual it depends on individual to individual how well they can grasp that learning.
True that. True.
So they have to keep in mind that it is they who are responsible for their education. Institutions are only an environment to help them learn.
Yes, and mostly have you, since you have said that peer is most important aspect, environment in which they are. That's one of the most important thing where students can learn, and
Right.
accordingly then they can grow. And
And then you have to be with the right group because you also tend to develop certain bad habits in that peer group. So there you have to like take your own responsibility, what you want to learn and what you want to avoid.
And apart from the like students going to college and attaining degree, I believe some skills is very requirement. Like personally, but when I was also in the college, I also have faced challenges while going for the interview. But I lately decided to do some courses, crash courses of like 2 to 3 months, and suddenly I started to get good interview offers. And what is your opinion for this thing? I believe colleges and or institute are lagging behind those skills that students do not attain it. And for example, Microsoft Excel and a technical knowledge or communication skills, any other skills that students, what are the in-demand skills that students should have for their own personality?
That keeps changing from time to time. So, for example, what our government is saying, the Indian government right now, that we have a lot of unemployed, educated people, but then certain surveys from the industry suggest they're not skilled.
Yes.
So Excel is a essential skill in accounting or like in work environment today. And I don't think any course within the university or something is focusing on Excel. And I would consider myself to be a very advanced Excel user, but in reality, I realized that only using 10% of the Excel tools which are available.
True that.
And Excel has been constantly evolving. So like you cannot keep up with Excel. Now with Copilot introduced with the Excel, I think things will change pretty much, or the artificial intelligence. So I remember Excel from the time when it was called Lotus 123. It was just simple checkered notebook where you did most of the thing. It could only do like basic multiplication tasks or basic mathematical operations. So from
Okay.
there on, Excel has evolved into a pretty versatile tool.
Okay.
Education institutes have to come in to teach the right skills.
True that. So nowadays, Excel has been linked up with AI tool, and as you said, with Copilot, of course, and ChatGPT has provided it. And what is your suggestion, like in for the German market? How's it's an advance in technology. Germany is meant for best for its technology and automotive. How the in German market these skills are becoming like in demand, which is useful for all other students. So, what are the new skills that the students should learn apart from degrees?
So coming to Germany, I realized that Germany has its own sets of problems. So one thing, they are not so digitized as India is. What the developed economies are facing right now is shortage of skilled manpower. So they don't have people to do the tasks. So there's a huge demand for accounting professionals, for IT skills, health industry, educations, everywhere there is a demand. The
In
only thing
German.
they need to do is like to integrate into the society, even if the job does not require German skill or that for you to know German language. It's always a good add-on to be knowing the language of the country where you want to work in, because that helps you integrate in the society, and that is what I have felt and realized, because I had a colleague who is not that good, or he's trying to learn German, but it's not that easy. Like learning a language to a fluency level while working, and we are struggling, and sometimes when he tries to call up, it's only German, and he asks me to help him out. So it's always good if you're trying to look at another country with a different language requirement. It's always a good idea to blend in.
That's a good, like through your experience, I believe all the new professional candidates will also take inspiration and they will follow also right direction. As first thing I've noticed, like language has been a barrier if you like look forward for another country opportunity. So we should know their culture, their language, and to get fit into it so that we can all get to know more other skills to learn in future. And of course, since you mentioned India is far way beyond than any other country. That's true. For
But I
in
think
terms of
German
technology.
skills are developing in India, because when I learned German in '84, the German embassy, that was the institute which was it was not actually embassy. It's called the Goethe Institute, which is like a quasi-government body, but responsible for promoting German culture in other countries. In India, it's known as Max Müller Bhavan, but it's part of Goethe Institute. So when I enrolled there, or when I inquired there in '84, they called me that you inquired for this language course, and are you willing to pursue it? And today the situation is that when the course are on offer, there's a long queue which starts at like people line up at 5 o'clock, and within an hour the tokens are distributed, and you have to wait for like 6 months to enroll for a course.
Huge demand for
Give it a
language.
try. Try inquiring at Goethe Institute. I want to learn German, and share your experience with other people, or like with me at least.
I'll personally try it. I learned Portuguese language, so when I was in Brazil for 2 years. So I know
Mhm.
the importance of learning language and how it is. For me, it was my personal development. For my own personal development, I learned the language because I believe it's your personality will be something different. That you are learning something upside down of the another life of the another world. You are learning that thing apart from your own world. You are learning some other world language. So that is the how beautified your language, that career for your, not only for career, for your own personality as well.
There's a
Yes.
famous quote from Mark Twain regarding languages. He says something like, "The more languages you know, the more men you are." Something like that. I don't remember that, but
If you have felt like you yourself would have felt something different personality within when you learned started German, speaking German language down like after 6 months, you would have felt like different personality on. Yes, so it changes. It's a good opportunity that everyone should have, that each and every person should have.
definitely.
But I believe so AI is capturing this language barrier as well. People are nowadays, whenever I talk to Gen Zs, they don't want to
Mhm.
learn language because They say machines are now well equipped. We can translate, and we have machines, they will translate it for us. And I believe the demand of the language might reduce in future. So what how do you see, what is your opinion for this?
I mean, if we were collaborating through a machine right now, that personal touch that develops, that will always be missing. And so right now, my mobile can translate into any language, including Hindi. I could speak any language, and it would translate for the other person to the language he wants to hear it to. But one thing, you have a overall dependency on the machine, and then you have to take in the factor of like a reliability, because sometimes that data is shared on the cloud or somewhere. And then secondly, we have recently seen experiences where the servers failed and every system was shut down for a complete day.
Yes, it happened. Yes, it does happen in many in our MNCs. Yes.
No, it's a recent occurrence, probably few months back. The markets,
Yes.
the terminals were not working. There was a
Yes.
big chaos at the airports, but that we cannot escape this chaos if something fails. But why add language to it? Speaking is a human skill, not a machine skill.
Well said, sir. Actually, it's a human skills. We should not be dependent on machine overall.
Right.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so let's move to
I'd like
one
to
of my.
add one more point here.
Tell me, sir.
So I have always believed that brain was supposed to be used as a CPU, not as a hard
Yes,
disk, which we are using right now.
yes, that's true.
And there's
Everyone.
nothing better than learning a language to train your brain.
Yes, that's true. People nowadays keeping to making their work easy, so they completely rely on the machines only. If I remember, I was in school, we never used calculator.
That's
After
right.
that, yeah, yeah, we were in Indian school do not allow to use calculator till
That's right.
12th
Yeah, I
standard.
know.
Yeah, I also studied in foreign school as well. I will not like compare, but they have this learning of calculator, but somewhere the calculation speed like we can match accordingly. So how is like we can calculate it as fast as possible in compared to that, because we cannot rely on completely now, we don't have calculator all the time.
You cannot rely completely. I have an interesting incident to share here, but
Tell
I'll
me,
give
sir.
you one recent example. I was doing a charity event somewhere, and I was in charge of the cash box. So I was a cashier there,
Okay.
so taking orders and taking the money. And then someone ordered something, and I said that would be that much, and the other guy was, you calculated it so quickly.
That's
But
true.
that's a different story. But let me tell you, I come from a generation where I have seen people who were, I was a big enthusiast of technology. So I've met people who would challenge me that they can calculate faster than a calculator. But they wanted that calculation to be offered in a particular manner, so like vertical, so that they can count the last digit. So you have that addition technique where you just keep on jumping to the next addition and then carry over and all this. But now today, when I work with Excel, I have 20,000 rows of numbers which are 5 digit or 6 digit. I don't think it's manually possible to calculate. I just have to rely on the number and my instinct of if that number is plausible or not. But you should be able to work both ways. I
True
wouldn't
that.
even trust Excel completely altogether. There could be an error where all the rows are not counted, and the numbers are so big you wouldn't miss out something.
That's true, sir.
So
Everything
now
has
the
its
new
pros
skill
and
is like you make sure that all your rows are into that total.
few things we have learned for this session. Yeah, my favorite question, I don't want to skip it. What is you have a strong advocate for homeschooling, even if you have written into your profile as well. Could you share why you believe in this, how why it is important for us for homeschooling?
Yeah, that's like my most preferred topic, and I can keep on talking for it for hours. So one thing is, I realized that, as you said, institutions or schools are a mean, not the end. So ultimate objective is to learn, and we have to see if the institutions are hampering that learning or adding to that learning or like aiding in that learning. And this is what I realized in the case of my kids, that they were a bit far ahead of the class. and they were not allowed to go. So one day my daughter had a problem in doing mathematical sums with carryover, small sums, 2 digits. And just to understand how well she had understood the concept, I explained her everything. And just to see how well she understood it, I extended it to 3 digits.
Okay.
And I got a remark from the school that don't take her ahead of the class, just let her follow the school curriculum. So that is you're not aiding learning, you're just hampering it. And what my
Okay.
belief is, education system has been designed for certain mediocrity. So a person who is ahead of it, he can do better than what the system has been designed for. He will suffer, but he will cope. But the problem comes with a person or a child who has not the skills required to cope up with that system. So he's like a bit slow and he's completely struggling. So I see education like a video game. You are flowing down a stream and you have to collect certain sticks which are there in the stream. You can call those grades, you can call those numbers, you can call that whatever. And once you lose your rhythm, so it could be an accident, it could be an illness, you are constantly struggling to keep up. You have to follow up with your past requirements. You have to prepare for the tomorrow's class, and you have to
Yes.
also keep up with what you learned today, and that becomes a challenge.
True that.
And in comparison, how I compared homeschooling to this was like a beautiful journey. If you found you're driving down a road through a scenic beauty, if you like something, you can stay there for longer. If you dislike or you're done with certain tasks, you can skip that and move faster. And that is the ideal approach with the school in its present in condition and environment cannot offer. And even like 50 kids in a class is like too much.
That's
So I
true.
have also done a course which is called Diploma in Teaching German as a Foreign Language. And during
Okay.
this, I was supposed to take some classes and so practical experience. And we were wondering what sort of 45 minutes is the class. Some teachers take some extra minutes, 5 minutes to come in, wrap up. And what one of the teacher told me is like, Manoj, of the 45 minutes, only 35 minutes are actually spent on teaching.
That's true, sir. But that's how system
And I
work.
think you should have it more in a way like you can spend 2 hours for a particular session, because that is you get in the mood, then you start accepting things, and then you have a closer, and 35 minutes is not that sufficient time. It's just a
Yes,
formality that we are doing. And then
that's
again, the
true.
system, like using the brain as a hard disk rather than a CPU.
More towards cramming and mugging the
Exactly.
question and answers. This has been happening. Like we actually started learning when we go into the actual experience after, like on the job or while preparing for any
Right.
exams. Yes, we actually start to learn when we go for the jobs, or we, as you said, like you have. I believe that your major learning would have been with your startup. That's how we learn with your practical
That's right. Yeah.
experiences. Yes, school is just providing, maybe providing all the kind of degrees in the as a piece of paper that we add on. But
So
that is
look at the
also
system today. I think you remember there was a case in Bihar. So I've been like 3 years in Germany. So it was like 20 or 19. A girl from Bihar topped. And I think that was her mistake that she topped, because when the reporters went there, she couldn't answer very simple questions.
That's true. Anyway, each and every area has their own system, and but here, like I want to like convey my message for the homeschooling, like why it is more important, like why it is important, simple as that, and we should more focus about the same if an individual wants to develop the skills rather than going into the hurts. And this I believe, and there has been a many evident as well, many of the successful people are into homeschooling and they have achieved a lot and developed more skills, which one individual going to the institute cannot, because somewhere most of the people do hamper waste of time. We can leverage our time into this learning other skills. Even I was also in college. We also had a multiple curriculum. That is their system. I will not offend, like that was not a good one, and I did not learn new things. But I would say through homeschooling, we can learn better skills in that we can go and. But this is how that to stand up with the in today's environment, we have to do this, the schooling and institute, that we have to follow the same.
So homeschooling has an advantage. We used to crack a joke for my kids. So my son was very good in maths and physics, but language he was like okay. So when he appeared for his set exams, he would have perfect scores in maths and physics, but the language it was like 60%, 70%, 80%. That was not good enough for like I don't remember the exact score, but it wasn't like what would be expected. Language was not his fault.
Okay.
And we would crack a joke that, Rishabh, if you would had been in school, you would always get a comment in your diary, very good in maths, but he should concentrate on his English or like language.
I believe I would wrap up. So nice talking to you. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And we would like to hear from you the last message for our audience.
It was wonderful talking to you. And before we end, I just wanted to share one of my dream projects with you, which was like this was I don't know if this is feasible or not, but what I have dreamed of is a school where the kids get in and then he's free to do anything, whether sport, whether mathematics, whether language. If he wants to spend the whole day in the library, that's fine. And with some IT, with some technology or some manual records, we just keep a track of what the kid did throughout the day. We don't interrupt him. We don't bother him. We let him do what his passion is, what he really wants to do, and then see how these kids evolve over a period of time. That's a dream project I have in mind. I don't know if that could be implemented or not, but this is what I really dream about.
Definitely, sir. It will be implemented, and hopefully, we were also able to help you for the same, and hope you achieve it at the earliest, your dream project. And it was really nice talking to you, sir. And hopefully, we will have a great session in future as well, with the same knowledge for our audience.
I look forward to it, and it was really wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So have a great day ahead, sir.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
And a Merry Christmas.
Same to you, sir, and Happy New Year, sir.